The last text message on my phone was from a delivery driver telling me my food had arrived, and that was 4 days ago. I kept scrolling up to see if anyone else had written anything, because I couldn't believe that in 4 whole days, not a single person had thought of me. My mother had texted 6 weeks back about car insurance, and a friend from college had messaged 3 months ago saying, "We should grab a beer sometime." I replied, "Definitely," and neither of us ever followed up. My thumb hovered over the keyboard wanting to type something. "Hey, how are you? I saw this thing that reminded me of you." But every draft sounded needy or fake, so I locked the phone and put it face down. That is what it feels like to be erased from everyone's mental list of people to think about. The worst part is, I don't even blame them, because somewhere along the way, I stopped believing I was worth remembering. Hey, my name is Meg, and if that feeling sounds even a little bit familiar, hit subscribe right now because I am going to tell you what actually works. I have lived through this, and I have climbed out of it, and I want to take you with me. Those motivational quotes on Instagram with the sunset background, they don't tell you what it really feels like. Checking your phone every hour and seeing nothing, or talking to my dog like he is a person because I haven't heard my own voice in days. Let me tell you what real loneliness looked like for me when I was trying to hide it. I laughed too loud at jokes that weren't funny, because laughter was easier than silence. I offered to help everyone with everything, moving furniture, running errands, because being useful was the only reliable way to be invited anywhere. I said yes to every plan, even the ones I hated, because the alternative was another Friday night alone. Then there was the weekend dread. For most people, Friday is a relief. For me, the weekend was a reminder that 2 whole days of silence were coming. No calls, no texts, no reason to leave the house. I even started preferring work to freedom, because at work there were people. At least it was proof I existed. Here's what I learned when I finally started looking for answers. I read a 2010 study by researchers named Hockley and Cacioppo that explained loneliness creates a loop. The more lonely you feel, the more your brain scans for social threats. I was misreading neutral texts as rejection, pulling back, and becoming even more lonely. But here is the hope that saved me. Feeling lonely does not mean you have bad social skills. Lonely people spend no more time alone than connected people. The difference is perception, and I learned that perception can be unlearned. I also read a 2015 MIT study that found the same brain region activates when we feel lonely as when we are hungry. Social connection is a basic human need, and that ache in my chest was not weakness. It was my biology screaming for something I was designed to need. So what actually worked for me? Not the advice that said, just love yourself first. That felt impossible because deep loneliness had stolen my energy, and big steps felt like climbing a mountain. But here is what I did. First, I accepted that the loneliness was going to hurt. I let it hurt. I felt angry and frustrated, and then I let that go and got back up. I told myself that every unbearable experience was preparing me for what I most desired. Then I started trying different things. Cooking classes, music, art, hiking, biking, rock climbing. And I accepted that most of them wouldn't work for me. And that was fine, because I could just move on to the next without pressure. I joined Facebook groups for hobbies I was curious about, and that led me to real people with the same interests. The beautiful thing was that if I didn't click with anyone, I never had to see those people again. No pressure, no performance, just showing up. I also started journaling, and honestly, that was one of the most effective things I did. Every night before bed, I wrote down what I was feeling, not to fix it, just to get it out of my head and onto paper. I wrote about the silence, the dread, the small moments when I felt invisible, and over time, I started noticing patterns. I saw that I was being harder on myself than anyone else ever was. Journaling became my mirror, and eventually it became my medicine. I volunteered, feeding stray animals, helping with city cleanups. Doing good for others reminded me that I mattered, and I found that people who volunteer are almost always open to conversation. I joined a gym and actually went to the classes, because bonding over physical effort is something humans have done for ages. I got a dog, a low-maintenance one, and she forced me outside every day, and the dog park was full of people who also had dogs. I use online communities like Discord and Reddit as a starting point, but I pushed myself to take those connections offline when I could. I exercised when I felt lonely, not to escape the feeling, but to prove to myself that I could handle discomfort without anyone watching. I tried cold showers to train my nervous system. When I finally had the means, I went to therapy, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to enhance my life. I considered living with others. I shared a flat with a mixed age group. It wasn't perfect and had downsides, but it was as close to a family as I could get. When I worked long hours, I started stopping at a local pub after work for one beer, using that time to call someone or just be around people. I organized a weekly online board game night with old friends, just 3 of us, but I looked forward to it every week. I even joined a martial arts gym where we won and lost together and then had a beer after. The most important thing I did was this. I started doing things I wanted to do, shows I wanted to see, music events I wanted to go to. I realized I had been putting so much of myself into people who didn't put anything into me. I decided to become a whole person by myself, and that made it so much easier to attract others. People can sense desperation, and I had been desperate for years. The moment I started filling my own life, everything began to shift. So here is what I want you to take away. You don't need to do all of these things. Pick one, just one. Join a Facebook group for a hobby you already like. Go to a volunteer event next Saturday. Sign up for a beginner's art class where you don't have to be good. Start a journal and write one sentence about how you feel. Accept that it might feel awkward, and that's okay. The goal is not to cure loneliness overnight. The goal is to take one small step toward being around other humans. And while you do that, learn to be alone with yourself. Treat your hobbies, your journal, your health like an extension of your relationship with yourself. The loneliness may not go away completely for a while, and that's okay. Don't be scared of it. Let it make you stronger. So subscribe if you want to keep walking this path together. Real stories, real science, real ways through. Because the only way any of us gets out of this is by reaching out, one small moment at a time. Drop a comment that says, "I'm still here," and I promise I will see you in the next one. There is a way through this. I really believe that. Let's find it together. Thank you for listening.